Check the camera for me. If it's getting the speaker for head. It's shaking a bit here. Is it capturing? Good capturing. Capturing from screen. For the next show. You gotta bring the camera. Hey, I gotta change the title. Anyhow, greetings, North Ruimveldt. Greetings, North Ruimveldt and the surrounding communities. This meeting of the Working People's Alliance, WPA, a member of the APNU coalition, is about to begin. As a matter of fact, it will begin now. Good evening to you. I am Kiraki Amsterdam, the organizing secretary of the Working People's Alliance, and I'll be tonight's chair. Brothers and sisters of North Ruimveldt, we, the WPA, a member of the APNU coalition, are here tonight, this evening, to speak to you in our own voices. It is not because there is segregation or there is divisiveness, but brothers and sisters, the fact is, the Working People's Alliance, over the years, have become known for standing beside you, standing alongside you, and fighting for you. Tonight, we are here to give you that assurance, that reassurance, that despite being in the APNU coalition, we will continue to fight for you and fight with you. It's not my intention, brothers and sisters, to be long in between yourself and the other speakers. And so I want to call first up to the podium a man from EV, a Baronian, an African rights activist, a cultural activist, a man who has stood the test of time, and as if during that time faced serious physical threat from the likes of the PPP and their friends and police. That did not stop him. And so, brothers and sisters, it gives me great pride to invite to the podium to address you tonight, Brother Elton Macri.
Thank you very much, Brother Kadaki. Lord Ruimveldt, good night. Oh, we are here this evening, as Brother Kadaki said, from the WPA, a component of the APNU. And why we are here? Because we feel that we need to be speaking to people, the base support of the APNU, in a way that we understand to speak to you. We feel that it is necessary to do this so that at the end of the day, you will understand why we are saying that you need to vote for the APNU come September 1st. Our support for the prime ministerial candidate and the presidential candidate of the APNU is not conditional to any issues with regards to who will have what. All we know is that we need to get rid of the PPP, and we are firm in that struggle. Our aim is to get rid of the PPP from government. The PPP has, over the years, launched an attack on us as a people. Guyanese people
in general and African people in particular. They have marginalized us from all facets of this patrimony in Ghana, especially with oil. If you check the people who benefit most from oil, you will not see the presence of Africans. And for this reason, we feel that we must be out here telling you why we must get rid of the PPP. Last week, we had some revelations, and they are still coming out to show you the kind of corrupt institution the PPP has been promoting over the years. It is so corrupt that we have a woman being called today Youngster Granny. Can you imagine that Youngster Granny? She has been the conduit for the boys' kickback. That man with 19 fraud charges, he has found a way to get his kickback through his Youngster Granny mother. So we understand that this is not a situation which we want to continue in Guyana. And we would like you to understand it, that our support is for the APNU all the way. So it is why the phrase for Guyana to grow, the PPP must go. Now, why I have been looking at this corrupt situation so much, I started looking at the corruption of the PPP. It's primarily because of this corruption, we cannot get many of the social services that we deserve to be enjoying in this country. One economist has rated that about 33% of every dollar that the PPP has spent is stolen. Imagine 1/3 of what they spend in this country over the last 5 years is money lost. Those monies, and they come to our community. We could have had better roads, we could have had better schools, we could have had better medical services, and all the way like that. And they would not have been waiting until election time to come looking for little black boys to give them contracts. Can you imagine? Suddenly, the PPP got so many contracts that they have now to look to these little black boys to show them that, oh, we love you. Why wasn't this love apparent 5 years ago? Why wasn't this love apparent in the early 2000s? It's only now that they are woken up because they are in a crisis. They love little black boys, giving them contracts to clean drains. They're not giving them these $1 billion contracts, by the way. They're giving them some small petty road contracts, which they must buy cement, they must buy stone, they must buy concrete from specific persons. In other words, they are just a conduit towards the fake activity cronies, their friends, family, and favorites. So, we need to understand that the PPP is a criminal organization. That is what it boils down to. Based on those revelations over the past week or so, we recognize that the PPP is a criminal organization. And no criminal organization ought to be running a country because that country will never develop. It will be lopsided in development, and what happens? Our people will be colonized as it is because imagine a few years ago, one PPP man said he couldn't find a black man to make him an ambassador. Today, all we find is black men and women doing security guard work. They are fired from the public service, the police force. There are few token miscreants at the top who are black. But by and large, the entire, under that commissioner, all the top ranking officers are not Africans. And this is not the issue of the nature of the police force of Guyana. We have been over the years the dominant factor in the police force. All suddenly you have all the top officers are not African. Yeah. Now, we have a major issue this election come around. And that issue, to my mind, is posed by an ex-PDP supporter. That supporter has been facilitated by the PDP so much so that it is touted that his family is the richest family in Guyana today. His riches were accumulated based on crime. When I say crime, his riches have been accumulated by not paying taxes to the state, which is a crime. And they have been evading taxes, they have been smuggling, another crime, gold across the borders, Venezuela, Brazil, and Suriname. Even much so, if you remember, way back in 2012, there was a boat, a fishing boat, by the way, that from which 70 gold bars were taken in Curacao, or stolen from in Curacao. Those gold bars, that boat was, the fishing boat came from Guyana. The records show that the boat left Guyana. But yet, the Guyana government did not investigate further what to say, what was on the news that a fishing boat from Guyana, 70 gold bars worth $11.5 million was stolen. Nobody in Guyana attempted to do an investigation, or if an investigation was initiated, it was quelled. Why? Because it was smuggled gold. And that smuggled gold belongs to the same Mohammed's family and many in the PDP. So, as an investigation be done, then they would have taken us back into the belly of the PDP. And for this reason, it was all ostracized. And in this way, the Mohammed family became extremely rich. They have been smuggling gold, they have been smuggling all sorts of things, weapons, and the rest. If you remember Donna McKinnon's death, it is rumored, or at the time Shell Mohammed said he had loaned to the PDP 2 guns when Donna McKinnon was killed. He never said, well, it was his guns, but the fact that he can loan the PDP guns is against the law because he is the license holder, not the PDP. So how did his guns get there? Yet no police investigation was launched as to why Mohammed lent his guns to the PDP. Right? So these are the kind of underhand dealings that the PDP has been encouraging over the years so that our people has been free. Now that same Mohammed, if you remember way back in 2007, when we had a lot of phantom killings, we had the phantom squad, day in, day out, our young men were slaughtered. In fact, the numbers range between 400 and 1,400. Some figures I say there as much as 1,400 young people that disappeared during that period. And all to the deaths are ascribed to the phantom killers. Now, who financed the phantom squad in a large way? It was the same Mohammed family. In other words, I'm saying to you that these people were involved in killing black boys, yet we are seeing black boys run into the Mohammed Wing Party. We need to let our children understand the history of people like Mohammed, the history of a group like the PDP, vis-a-vis ourselves, black people in this country. So they understand that these people don't love you. They want to use you at this point to get what they want. And so all of this talk about Mohammed giving away house and doing this for people is flam. It is like the Pied Piper. Remember the story? You give, or they just come and they sit their feet dance and play nice to you in your face. The minute you would have voted for them, that's it. As happened in the last election, Mohammed and the PPP are at war now. Last election was the PPP and the Anuk people. Anuk was initiated by one of that, an old PPP stalwart who had some disagreement with them, and he formed Anuk. What happened when he got into parliament? He joined the PPP. So I expect then Mohammed will get into parliament. He will join the PPP against the APNU. So basically, a vote for the him is a vote for PPP. So we need to solidly vote APNU from September 4th. So what we need to do? Vote APNU. For Guyana to grow, the PPP must go. Thank you very much, Mark. Who you voting for? Who gonna let you go? Who gonna care for all? Stand up for and vote.
Talking about action for Guyana to grow, the PPP must go. For the PPP to go, you must vote. So each and every one of you, each and every one of us must turn out on September 1st and vote against the PPP. We must vote for the PAN, APNU. Brothers and sisters of North Ruimveldt, it's time to invite to the podium one of the stalwarts of the Working People's Alliance, one who was fought long and hard from the 70s and the 80s, and I'm sure he couldn't imagine having to come here in 2025 to fight against the PPP for bad governance. Tonight we welcome to the podium Brother Rohit Kanai. Our brother was traveled over the seas from the United States of America to be here in the struggle with us, just as he was in the struggle with us in previous years for good governance. Imagine fighting all of those decades for good governance, and when you thought that things would have changed, here you are again, doing it. Brother Rohit.
Thank you, Brother Kedaki. Good evening, brothers and sisters. Brothers and sisters, all money is dangerous money. The oil money is given to us in the form of a check. It means that money has no constraint upon it. The government is free to spend that money however it pleases, unless people make demands on the government for their fair share of the money that belongs to them. The government is the custodian of that money. It doesn't have ownership over that money. The money belongs to the people. The money is the birthright of the Guyanese people. This PPP-C government, Bluetooth disconnected. C stands for corruption, corruption, and corruption. The PPP has attempted to ban the word corruption in Parliament. They have revealed their true intentions. By trying to ban the word, they are trying to ban the reality. They cannot ban the reality because it is reflected in the lives of working people. As you look around the country, you can see homes that are practically abandoned, homes that people are living in that are not fit for human habitation, And right alongside those homes, you see brand new buildings that people cannot afford to work for with their wages. The wages cannot support some of these buildings. It is totally out of reach of working people's wages. The World Bank report says that 40% of Guyanese earn less than $1,100 a day. The cost of living in this country is way above that figure. People cannot afford to put food on the table, pay rent, transportation, and basic living expenses. You have to pay for water. You need water at a daily level, at least 6 bottles of water to maintain basic fluids in your body. And you have to spend $100 a bottle for drinking water alone. You pay for transportation, local distances, $100 per trip. When you begin to add up your basic cost of living for daily, everyday necessities, there is no way $1,100 a day is capable of providing basic food, much less transportation and other necessities. So, at the end of the day, who is reaping the benefit of the oil money? Certainly not the working people of Guyana, regardless of race. The PPP is giving the money to their elite. The buildings you are seeing way out of the reach of the working people is part of the corruption of the PPP. The only money that truly belongs to all working people belongs to the friends, families, and favorites of the PPP. If we look at the manifestos being given out right now, there is an abundance of promises for the working people, promises that were not given out over the 5 years of the PPPC regime. The battle right now is to remove the PPPC regime from government. That is the only way some of the promises will be meaningful. With the PPPC regime in power, you will remain in the poverty that has engulfed you for the past 5 years. The oil money came into the hands of the PPPC regime. No oil money was in the hands of the APNU government. So everything the PPPC is claiming they are doing for you is based on their usage of the oil money over 5 years. I do not have to tell you the circumstances of your life. You know it, you feel it. At the end of the day, you know that money is not coming to you. Another 5 years will not make it better under the PPC government. It will only make it worse. The corruption must stop. The PPP government has to go. For Guyana to go, the PPP must go. Thank you, brothers and sisters.
Thank you, Brother Wright. Thank you, Brother White. North Ruimveldt, where are your mining blocks? Where are your gold mining lands, brothers and sisters? When you have a citizen who can tell you that $50 million is a small piece because of the amount of money that is made from gold, mining gold and smuggling gold. And you can look around in your communities and you can look across this country and you come to realize that gold mining, which previously was an enterprise creating employment and financial empowerment for Afro-Guyanese to the greater part. But since the PPP has taken government, gold mining, access to gold mining land has become a very, very difficult thing for Afro-Guyanese. I ask you, they say they love you, they care about your well-being. I ask you, brothers and sisters, where are your mining blocks? Whether it is oil, whether it is gold, whether it is sand, whether it is bauxite, and other precious minerals, where are your mining blocks? To speak with us next, brothers and sisters, is a champion warrior, one who has served this country in different capacities, one who has given her skills to transitioning Gaisuko and right-sizing Gaisuko during the years of the Granger APNU government. One who has known the wrath of the PPP, and certainly one who remains in the fight. Brothers and sisters, she herself is caught up right now fighting the PPP for ancestral lands that they and their friends and cronies are attempting to steal from our family. Let us put our hands together and welcome to the podium Sister Audriana Thomas. A short woman, they say, but one who has a long history of struggle to right the wrongs of the PPP.
Thank you very much, Brother Tadaki. Hello, North Ruimveldt, South Ruimveldt, Festival City. All those of you, I was just talking to a lady, she said, I can hear you all the way down that side. And we're very happy about that. Good night to you. And we have one task on the 1st of September, and that is to get rid of the PPPC government. And we're not leaving a void. We will replace them with the APNU government under the leadership of Aubrey Compton Norton. And we in the APNU, we have a lot of friends in other parties. But we're saying to you that a win for APNU is a win for everybody. So you don't have to vote for anybody else. You only have to vote for the APNU. Because if the APNU should win this election, everybody will win this election. Because I'll tell you what, we're not going to let the banks close accounts of people who are associated with other people, because the Constitution says that you have a right to associate with whomever you want to associate with. So under the APNU government, we're going to respect the rights of citizens, that right of association. And so a win for APNU will be a win for everybody. You don't need to vote for anybody else if you vote for the APNU and we get into government. The APNU government under Aubrey Compton Norton will be a rights-based government. We have seen this PPPC government violating the rights of the citizens citizens in this country in so many ways. We've seen them violating the land rights of citizens in Waka, in Hillfoot, at Parika. We've seen them violate the employment rights of citizens. As I go around this country, the stories I hear about employment, professional people who are out there and could not find jobs for 5 years, people who have master's degrees in public administration and they can't get jobs in the public sector. Now, if you have a master's degree in public administration, where else you're going to work? But they can't get jobs. So there's a level of frustration that is out there. People are hopeless because despite the budget this year was $1.something trillion, people can't find jobs. And the other thing that I'd like to talk about is that people are saying that they not only finding jobs, there's some people who will never, who may never get a job in Guyana again if this government does not change. And so while you have professional people out there who are qualified and they're not getting jobs, the president is having 5:30 meetings in the morning to deal with incompetence. Under an APNU government, we will focus, we will have a structured program for our human capital development, human resource development, as well as utilizing the talent and the skills of all groups in our society. The carpenters, the masons, the fishermen, the teachers, the accountants, the engineers, the doctors, the lawyers. We will have a comprehensive program to utilize our human resources and develop our human capital. After we started talking about our human capital development and human development program, I read in the press yesterday, President Ali is now talking about the government is doing a human capital development strategy. Now, after 23 years in government, 5 years of this government from 2020 to 2025, it's only now the PPPC government know that they need a human capital development policy. Now, if we have to jump in and the government has to, for the government to then realize that they need a human capital statute, a human capital policy, then we need to vote them out. Because we need to vote them out because Guyana has always had two problems. Guyana has had a leadership problem and a money problem. God has blessed us with oil and we have solved the money problem. But come 1st September, we need to solve the leadership problem because many of you will know that I would go back to say under the PNC government, North Ruimveldt was at its cleanest. Under a PNC government, North Ruimveldt, the human capital, the police force was so professional. The Guyana Defense Force was so professional. The public sector was so professional. And we didn't have any money, but it is about leadership. The PPP is better in opposition than they are in government. So we need to put them back where they're at their best, in the opposition. So come September 1, we are putting the PPPC back in the opposition. Bernard, you're a very good opposition leader. So let's put him back in the opposition. The other thing I'd like to mention is corruption. You know, everywhere I go, people are saying, when y'all get into government, don't be corrupt. I can tell you, under a government led by Aubrey Norton, we will not be a corrupt government. Last week, the book revelations was opened and the scrolls were open and we started to hear the names, right? We heard about son of I and son of girl. We heard about number 1 and number 2 and number 3 and number 4. Under an APNU government, we will work towards having a clean government, a government that is not corrupt. You know, last week we heard that somebody paid $2 million for some mining areas. You know, let me tell you something about corruption. In government, you can make concessions because you have the authority. But when it becomes corrupt, those same letters, which that man said last week, he had to pay $2 million for a letter, 3 letters. He said he paid $2 million each, $6 million for 3 mining areas. And so what the government could have done is to make concessions, and once citizens or businesses qualify, then you make the concessions. Where it becomes corrupt is when you collect that $2 million. That money, what they can do is the GTMC can have as a part of their program where, for example, those special concessions, they can have, let's say, a premium on them. So instead of that $2 million going in some government person pocket, it's going into the GTMC and into the treasury so that your communities, your families, and Guyana can develop. So as we look at corruption, it's not that corruption is some magic. No, it is very often the reward that is paid for the concessions. Let's take GRA, for example. Very often people want something in a hurry. They might be living in the country and they need something today. GRA can put a priority fee. So instead of somebody taking a little something for that person to get that service in a hurry, GRA can have a priority fee. So if you want it in a day, you pay that priority fee and you get it in a day. And that money goes into the treasury instead of going into somebody's pocket. So these things are not rocket science. People ask how you have an end corruption. I just gave you some examples as to how we can address corruption. But we need a government that has the will to address corruption. Now when you think about it, all the president's bills are paid. The president gets millions of dollars a month. No president's name in Guyana should be mentioned in the same sentence with corruption. I'm not saying this president is corrupt. I'm just saying that no president in Guyana name should be mentioned in the same sentence with corruption. People would say you're saying that because you haven't no much money. But when you go into government, it is not to make the money for you, but it is to develop the citizens of the country. So I'd like to assure you that with an APNU government, we will put an end to corruption. I'd also like to mention quickly in terms of well-being, a lot of people are telling me how they're frustrated and hopeless. And that is because this government has developed, they're talking about one Guyana, but we really have 2 Guyanas. We have one Guyana with those who are hopeless, and the other Guyana with people who are saying $50 million is pocket change. So $50 million is pocket change. Hear them men talk about 400 and something million dollars as if it's a joke. You understand? And that is 400 and something million of your money. And so, how are you going to have how are we going to have good well-being? How is it that citizens in this country can be at peace? They can have hope. But under an APNU government, under the leadership of the next president, Aubrey Compton Norton, you can be assured that you will be able to have good well-being. You'll be able to, your dreams will be realized. You won't be hopeless. Remember there was a time in Guyana when there wasn't so much hopelessness. And the PNU government is going to address that. I'd also like to talk about what last week, the APNU launched their manifesto. And that manifesto is the PPP is playing catch up. So they're coming up with all of these different kinds of gifts, but there's no really structure, there's no sustainability, right? The APNU said they would give 100,000 for something. They say they will give 200,000. Now that is not sustainability. You tell me with a 1 point something trillion budget, they don't know that the elderly need a pension of $60,000. Now that the APNU says that they will increase it, they're now saying that they will increase it. Now you have to decide come 4 September if you want to take these promises again from the PPP and vote them back in, thinking that, all right, let me give them another chance. Or you need to send them to the curb and give the APNU a chance to transform this country, to transform your lives, to transform your families, to transform your communities. And this is not just talk. We are serious. Because, like I said, Guyana has always had two problems. We've had a leadership problem and a money problem. Guyana has the money, but what we don't have is the leadership. So come 1 September, your responsibility is to vote the right leadership in. And that leadership is the APNU government. I'd also like to talk quickly about, the president was talking also recently about the PPP as the best to develop international partnerships. And over the recent years, Guyana has developed and established more international partnerships, I think he said, than at any other time. Well, of course, we've never had oil over the past 5 years. We've had oil. So these international partnerships are not because of the PPPC. They're because Guyana is now an oil and gas producing country. And so, of course, everybody is going to run and come to Guyana. So these international partnerships is not because of the PPP. But what we want to say to the PPP is what is important for these international partnerships is integrity. So the president must not bounce around the place talking about all of these international partnerships, but if they must be built on integrity, they must be built on the rule of law, they must be built on respect for international, regional, and national rules, regulations, and laws. This PPPC government is lawless. And so we need to vote a government in that will respect the laws of the country. And finally, I'd like to say that I'd like to talk about some of the things we'll do as it relates to land, sugar, and environment. You know, the PPPC has given everybody a little drainage contract here and a little drainage contract there. What the APNU government will do is to develop an environmental industry. So in communities can develop small businesses, environmental businesses, where they develop the landscape, they keep the communities clean on a monthly basis, and they can perhaps get loans from the Small Business Bureau as capital to develop these environmental businesses. So it's not just a little drainage contract here and a little drainage contract there, and whenever the president decides that he wants a photo opportunity and he calls a cleanup campaign. We're going to have a structured program on land, and I'll end on land and sugar. On land, this PPPC government is going around the place and taking away people the land from citizens and giving it to their friends, family, and favorites. Under an APNU government, we have recognized that the problem with land in Guyana is so widespread that it requires government intervention, not just the intervention of the judiciary and the law, but it requires government's intervention. It requires the will of the government. And under APNU government, we will have a structured land management and development program. We'll do land regularization, review the land registration system. We will review land for agriculture, etc. And all these roads that the BVP is building, and they're taking away the front lands from citizens. Under an APNU government, we will not take away your front lands. We will leave your front lands, you with your front lands, so that if you want to lease them, you want to build businesses, you can do whatever you want, because it will be a part of our poverty reduction and wealth creation program. And so, I can say a lot more, but I will go on for the rest of the night, and my other colleagues may have to shorten their time. So I would like to say to you, North Ruimveldt, for Guyana to grow, the PPPC must go. And I'd also like to say to you, a vote for APNU, a win rather for APNU is a win for everybody. And I also want to say that come 1st of September, let me see those palms in the air. When you're going to that voting booth, we're not saying to take your cameras. We're saying vote for the palm and put the APNU into government with the new president, Aubrey Norton, and let's send the PPPC to the curb. Thank you. Have a good night, and God bless you.
Thank you, Sister Adriana. Give it up. Give it up for Sister Adriana. North Ruimveldt, especially young people of North Ruimveldt, I want to tell you something. They come to you and they say they love you. And they're giving you contracts. But look at the contracts they're giving you. Clean the gutters. Sweep the road. Those are the contracts you deserve. One member of the PPP once said that once they empower, black people will be made to do security work and collect garbage. And every day with the PPP in power, you see that they are doing their best to ensure that you stay at the bottom of the ladder, like Jenny Jagan said several years ago. The APNU will invest in you. The APNU is giving every youth of this country who decides to go to GTI, GITC, or the University of Guyana $600,000 a year. That's financial support. So you get free education from university, from nursery to university, or tertiary. And then, on top of that, you get $600,000 a year for going to a tertiary institution. That is investment in youth. That is showing care and concern for youth. Brothers and sisters, I call the next speaker, who also has traveled across the waters to be here with us. A speaker who also has been in the long fight for democracy and good governance in this country. And that brother is Keith Branch. Brother Keith, welcome to the podium.
Brothers and sisters of North Ruimveldt, Festival City, South Ruimveldt Park, and all the surrounding areas, welcome welcome to this meeting of the Working People's Alliance and a Partnership for National Unity. The Working People's Alliance decided that the best way to remove the corrupt PPP administration is by joining forces with a Partnership for National Unity and creating a new Guyana, a Guyana where all of us, of all races and age groups, school children and adults, working people and everyone else would have a joyous of life, would be able to enjoy the fruits of retirement. Old people, young people would enjoy recreation and other issues and other facilities that youthfulness demand. I know this area well. I grew up in Lahu Street down the road, so I know what is here. I can remember when moving here as a young man, as a teenager, after Carry Festival was over. They called that area Festival City because it housed, for those of you who are young enough, it housed participants for Carry Festival 72. After the Carry Festival was over, the government cleared those houses, refurbished them, and sold them to citizens who are living in less than favorable circumstances in the city of Georgetown. I remember the cane fields here. I remember fishing for tilapia before the fishing. Hello? Yes. Sorry. I remember fishing for tilapia here in the fields before the houses were constructed. I remember when construction began and the land was cleared, and the first thing that happened, roads were built and drainage was put in. And we were saying even in the drains, the tilapia was still flat. Then the houses began. When the people came here to live, there were accessible roads and houses. Many of you may not know, but there was a appreciable number of self-help houses. Between every 4 houses was a house built by self-help. Communities came together on the weekend. The government provided the material, sand and stone and wood, and they provided the construction supervisor, the man who knows where to put what. And the communities came together and built houses. Many of the houses here are self-help houses. People came from all over Guyana to live in those houses, raise families in those houses. On Saturday, I was at a meeting and a young woman was telling a story. A young man, I think, was telling a story of a woman who paid over $200,000 for water Jack Dio and Ali's house lot. You know, they always talk about giving away house lots. They give away 4,000 house lots today, 10,000 house lots tomorrow, house lots and they give away. They're not saying that this giveaway costs money. Money that most times poor people don't have. So this woman paid over $200,000 for her house lot. She got a car and drove to this location where the house lot was supposed to be. And all she saw was acres and acres of fire grass and swamp. No roads, no drainage, just fire grass and swamp with some pickets stuck around. She asked the man, well, where is this house lot? And the man said, over there, you know, up 200 yards away through the power grass and swamp. That is not housing. That is exploitation. That is exploitation. I can tell you right now, in Bachelor's Adventure, some one of the acolytes of the PPP are transforming a piece of property that once belonged to the Adventist Church. And they already reroute the water mains. They already put in new lines. The Chinese people are living there in the boxer while they transform this property. You who work in this country, who live in this country, who gave your sweat and blood for this country, whose ancestors dug the drains, whose ancestors planted the cane, whose ancestors came and built the country brick by brick, seawall stone by seawall stone, aqueduct by aqueduct. We worked here hard for no money. And what they gave us, the PPP, power grass and swamp, and tell us that that's a house back. We must go and build there. It is a shame, and therefore the PPP has to go. The PPP must go. We're going to vote the palm. We're going to take that palm and slap the bitches down. We're going to take the palm and slap them down. Vote for the palm. For a long time, this country has been poorly administered. I remember in 2016, I think it was, the year of our 50th anniversary, I came here to celebrate. My eldest brother played in the police band, and when the flag was being raised for independence of the national park, he was the guy playing the taps, or one of the guys playing the taps under the flag. And so I thought that 50 years after, let me come and see you where we are as a people. One of the things that struck me is that just a few months after the ACNO took office, people were saying there was a song that the Cockabelly swimming up the gutter. Cockabelly was swimming up the gutter. All that you have now is tons of scum. Tons of scum like what you have in Rob Street. I don't know which has more, Rob Street or the gutters. So we have to bring this country into proper administration. We have to ensure that policies are put in place that benefit the people of this country, the people who have suffered for a long time under the hands of the PPP. They have no love. They have no love and they don't pretend to. Someone posted on Facebook this morning the condition of the road. You know, the PPP and the minions have thousands of people on Facebook who they pay to troll you. If you say something, they come after you. You know, the most of them are controlled by Kwame McCoy at NCN or wherever he or she hides. And they come after you and tell you that you're racist. If you mention that the PPP is not treating black people well, they say you're racist. Everybody is racist but the PPP. It's a Cherry Jagan who talk about a contract, but all of a sudden they're not racist. It is we who are racist. But this young man, he took his camera and he went into a village and he took a picture of a big house, nice verandas swinging around the house. And he said that this is the house of a friend of the PPP. And look at the roads, they just finished the roads. And he said across there on the other side of that road is the black community. And the roads had potholes that a car can get lost in. There was no indication that any tractor or grader or any kind of machinery was there. Nothing was there. They fixed the road in front of the friend and they took the machine away. That is the PPP. That is the PPP. And then we have some people who used to be our friends who cross over there for their 10 pieces of silver. And they say to us that we now are the bad guys and the PPP is so good. And they sit around and the PPP treats them like dirt. You know, I don't know if you saw the movie Django, but most of those remind me of the Samuel L. Jackson character. Yes, master. Yes, master. They can do that to we house. Where you putting this nigga in the house? And he himself was a brokeable nigga. So we are saying that those people who cross I'm not saying that the PPP, that people who have a conviction and want to join the PPP shouldn't join the PPP, but they should understand that when they join the PPP, they will be open to criticism as accessories to the oppression of people in this country. Van West Charles and Bond and others, they participate fully in the oppression of this country. And when push comes to shove, we will remember what we suffered. Over the past year or two, we have had several incidents in this country. Several incidents of our young people being shot and killed, our schoolgirls and young women being sexually assaulted by a form accused of being of the former minister being sexually assaulted. I should rephrase that and say the former minister was accused by these young ladies of sexual assault. We had a fire at a dormitory that killed about 21 young women and a little boy. For all of those incidents, nothing, not a word. It's always we take it to the DPP, a woman named Hack. But this woman named Hack has a husband who is a Muslim clerical official. And his good friend was accused too of sexually assaulting young boys. She should have resigned on that basis because he did, and then he packed up and left the country. So we have this incident taking place, and there's no investigation whatsoever. They churn out Joe Singh every now and again and say, oh, he's a man of unique, impeccable quality, and so he's going to lead some investigation. Joe Singh's era of impeccability is long gone. Long gone. Joe Singh is no other than a hack of the PNC, or the PPP, sorry, being used to suppress the will of the Guyanese people. So we have the situation where our people are suffering because of the direct participation of these elements in the PPP. And they're boosting the young people. That's worse. But you know, the PPP had black people over the years. Belgrave and Collymore and all of those guys who were there from conviction. Now we have the guys who are crossing the floor or running away from their own shadows, sell government land and afraid of jail. thief government oil and afraid of prison, sign a multi-million-dollar parking meter contract with some Mexicans and then pay. Now the Mexicans want the money and they say we're going to come for you and carry you to New York and you either pay us or go to jail. And the government said, nah, we're going to help you out, but they got to become PPP. So that's how they line up. That's how they line up. Sodom and Gomorrah is not just about homosexuality. Sodom and Gomorrah is about greed and the lust for money. And that is why the fire and brimstone rained down. It's not just about people with same-sex loving each other. It was about that greed and gluttony. The first sin was gluttony, greed. And those elements will one day understand that. I shall tell you that for all of this happening in this country, the millions and millions of dollars, and some coming after me will talk about the oil. Some mentioned it already. The millions and 900 million barrels of oil being pumped out of the ground. $600 billion missing every year. Before you get the contract, you have to pay 4 or 5 people. By the time you're ready to buy the cement and sand, you don't have enough money to do it. So you shortchange the work, and the next day the road fall in. Marco Rubio called the highway concussion highway because he nearly broke his neck driving down the new road. And then they say, oh, no, we're going to, it wasn't supposed to finish like that. We're going to resurface it. That is because most of the money was given in bribes along the line. This is the country that we live in. That is why we have to put in the APNU and put an administration in place to correct those imbalances, to ensure that there's a proper procurement commission. We have to do that. We have to do those things. But before any of that can be done, on the 1st of September, you have to go to the polls. Take your son and daughter, take your grandmother. If you don't have a car, borrow a wheelbarrow and push them there. When I was a little child in Pleasance, people used to carry out the old people in wheelbarrows, carry them to the polls to vote so they can kick the PPP out of office. If we don't do that, and we allow these children of Satan to return to office, I shall tell you, in Nigeria, there's a group called the Boko Haram. Some of you might have read of the Boko Haram. In the Western countries, in the capitals, they call them terrorists. They create the impression that these are some wayward bandits who live in the bush and just run out every time to kill people. But no, that is not why the Boko Haram was formed. In northern Nigeria, Chevron and the other oil companies have been drilling oil on an ancestral land where black people lived before Genesis. And oil companies got there and began to pump the oil out of the ground. 40 years now and more, they're pumping that oil out of the ground in northern Nigeria. And to date, the women have to walk a mile and more to get drinking water. To date, there's no running water. The streams and rivers that are close by are now contaminated with oil. People, sometimes the older women, remove the oil slick from on top of the water to get water to drink. That is as dangerous as drinking the oil itself. And after years of petition, after years of asking the government for help, to manage the oil company. After years of the government doing nothing, the people reacted, and that is how Boko Haram was formed, chasing the oil companies around the country. Can there be a Boko Haram in Guyana? The objective conditions are present. The objective conditions are present. The citizens of this country are seeing billions and billions of dollars. One guy can say on the interview with Travis Chase that somebody came in and asked him for 35 million. I said he ain't got that much money now. So 35 million is no money. The same way that the guy can walk up to you and say, hey kid, lend me 100 till tomorrow. The same way these guys walk up to each other and say, lend me 35 million or lend me 40 million. Or granny coming for she money, give me some 100 million. That is what is happening in this country. The conditions for Boko Haram are the objective conditions. So the APNU is asking you to tell your sons and daughters who are in the military on August the 22nd to put their exploits. Those of you who are in the military to put their exploits. One for the general election and the other for the regional election. And come September 1st, when you go to vote with your sons and daughters and granddaughters, mother and father, you put in your exploits also for the farm. APNU. Raise that palm that we're going to use to slap the PPP into the dirt. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Keith. As we move along, I wish to call to the microphone an educator, a mother, a community activist, and one who definitely is a fighter, especially for the education and the rights to education of our children. Teacher Bonita Ho.
Right. North Ruimveldt and its environments. Good night to you. Do you like your conditions here? Huh? The answer is no. How long are we going to sit back and allow the level of disrespect to continue? How long? Now you tell me, I said before at the previous rally that the PPP is the weapon that has been formed against the citizens of this country. And I say that because there is more than enough evidence to prove such. PPP is extremely disrespectful to our young people, especially ones of African descent. Have you ever seen the PPP going to their roots, to their base, and say, put on this t-shirt and I will wrap 15,000 or 10,000 inside and give you all? I can't recall that. I cannot recall that. The disrespect is even more now that they are using the contacts from the cash grant to call at people's homes and to ask you if you have a ration. And if you say no, you don't have the ration, They are going to give you this ration. However, they're going to tell you that you have to make that commitment. You have to make that commitment to vote for PPP. But listen up. We don't take and take. We is not them low life comedy earth. We don't belong there. The disrespect must end now. Alright? And in order for the disrespect to end, we have to vote them out. What do we have to do? Vote them out. Alright? Because here's the thing. How is it possible that you can be giving me $15,000 wrapped in a t-shirt to walk around and to share your nonsense? Had it? If you would have put in the work and you would have done right by the people, the citizens of Guyana, would you have to be in this dilemma now? I don't think so. You would not have got to walking around all around the place asking persons to wear your t-shirt and bribing them to do so. And I hope that Madam Singh Jikam is taking notes because there are so many complaints about that. Alright? The disrespect must stop. We don't look like rescue the parents and care for the dying. They must treat us with dignity and respect. They ought to treat us with dignity and respect. And they don't have that at this time. We can make them have that. When they come to us with a filthy nonsense and asking us to do that for them as a bargaining chip, we say, no, we take a stand. We stand on the side that says, hey, I got some level of respect and integrity left. I ain't wearing nothing and walk around like no fun for nobody. They're making sense to me, no generation to come for me. So young people, I want to say to you tonight, not the saying that money got make, we got eat bread, things got happen for we. If it a rich this year, next year not pass, not that? But I heard this thing now, the message to you. Take your time. Do it with pride. Do it with dignity. Alright? Don't let nobody gotta pull you into a corner because when you sign a deal with the devil, you know it's hell hold you in. You ain't coming out from the hell hold you in. You understand? When you sign a deal, so many things you have to do. You gotta go, you gotta take a picture. You gotta sign that. You're going to walk around and sell the foolishness what they're trying to sell and brainwash people. They ain't walking now. You understand? You got to wear a t-shirt. And even if they want to rent a crowd, you got to move from here and go till the black affair. That doesn't make sense. As young people, we are the molders of this nation. We are the most valuable resource that they would ever have. And because of that, we need to carry ourselves with pride and dignity. So when I come tomorrow with a little package telling you down there, you ain't down there. You know why those things are happening? Because our dear Auntie Priya, the Minister of Education, Auntie Priya, she would have adopted that system of the no child left behind. So when she did that, it was strategically done. Because now, when you have our young people not having that ability or skill to be competent enough to pass at their grade levels, it creates some level of burden and stress for them. You know when you're with your peers and some go over on the other side, over, the person will say, oh, you know what Isa Buckingham the done said in the class. Nobody wants to be deemed as the done said. Nobody wants to be called those kind of names. Alright? So here what happens. The person who is lagging behind takes the easy road. They take the easy road and so by me neighbor is trying to say me neighbor's call them and so they might drop out. That was the system before. If you pass, if you don't pass, you stay back. But now, Anti-Priya created that system. Whether you got 2%, you're still going over just as the child who was 98%. You make the math to me. How the math say? That makes no sense. What are we looking at? That makes no sense. If you are competent, you cannot pass your grade level. You can't work to get past the grade level that you ought to get past. How is it possible that you will be able to manage the work of a higher grade? Does that make sense? No. But many of us, we believe it's the best thing or it's a nice thing. After a while, the child becomes frustrated, becomes more complacent, and say, you know what, school is not for me. I can't make it take. Because even if they have a tech vocational subject that they are skilled with their hands, you have to have some level of competency base. All right? In terms of, you have to know the basics of reading and writing and comprehending. And if you can't do that, you know what happens? You are a part of a system, you're part by the wayside. And then now anybody show up on the corner and say, I got a little work for you, a little hustle. You part pray to that. And you're gone now. And you're just on the corner, you're doing a little hustling, then you find yourself, you get brushes with the law. Why you going out there like that? Because now the police get work, the police gets work. And the work is to make you bullseye, they shoot you down. How many of us have experienced those kind of things in our communities? I can tell you right here in North Ruimveldt, that has happened on several occasions. All right? So as young people, we need to hold a focus. The only party at this time that would have catered for you and have a plan to move you in a positive and a productive direction, it is the APNU. And that party is led by Mr. Aubrey Compton Norton. He is the president that will lead us, and he's not a done-stop president. He went through the ranks of all his levels of education. He's not done stuff. He didn't miss a certificate nor a degree. All right, he acquired all, and they are from reputable universities, credible sources they came from. So, when it comes to that, we need to be mindful as young people. The next thing I want to talk to you about is that many of you are running around and say, oh, you see, nobody didn't do nothing for you, and nobody didn't give you nothing. But let us be honest with ourselves. Whichever government comes into power, there are certain things that the government is required to do. Nobody has to do that for you. They are required to build roads, build schools, give school supplies, build hospitals, and all of those things. Those things are standard. So don't let PPP come with a guilt game, the trick game, but nonsense. But you want to we build roads for a community? Listen, they have to build a road. It is a requirement for them to build the road. It is not their choice. It is a requirement. So many of you talking about, oh, you see, we got progress. Where is it? Where is it? And since we are on the road, what type of road are being built? Is it granola or is it cornflakes? because these roads built today and by tomorrow they are being fixed. So I want to know what quality the road is. Guyana Road or Conflicts Road? I need Mr. Ali and his administration to answer that for us. Because these people have been proven to us over and over how disrespectful they are to the citizens of this country. And if we continue to fail as citizens to hold them accountable for their actions, they will continue to do it. We have to hold them accountable. That money that they are walking around with, mopping their shoulders and carrying on as though they are giving out all around and they're giving to who they want to give it to. That money is not any of their money. That money is the citizens of this country money. That is our money. We the taxpayers pay those ministers and all of them. So let them not come and dictate to us who they are going to get that money and when they are going to get that money. That is our money. Yes, we must put an end to the level of disrespect and the maltreatment that has been going on for quite some time. Now is the time for us to do that by palming them out. On September 1, we are going to palm them out. Let's touch on a little about our elderly people. Our elderly people would have worked so many years. They would have served this country on so many levels. But here they are. This wicked, vindictive, thieving cabal telling people that they're only going to give them elderly people old age pension 6,000 to 9,000. What I would like to ask, I would like to ask the corrupt PPP and its criminal cabal, are you going to give youngster granny $6,000 to $9,000 to work with for the retirement? Are you going to do that? Well, you better stop this level of disrespect because if youngster granny can't survive on $6,000 to $9,000, how is it possible that you want a regular old age pensioner to survive on $6,000 to $9,000 that you promised to do? That is utterly disrespectful. When old age pension, the pensioners gotta do so much. Tell me, how we really multiplying the $65,000 to cover all what you have to cover? Cost of living would have skyrocketed for how long? And yet you want to keep people in poverty by giving them $6,000 to $9,000. $6,000 to $9,000, not even granny's pocket change, which is spent because according to the information all over, if that granny kickback's bigger than 69K, and we can't do that. It's disrespectful to our elderly people. Our servicemen and women, you are going to the polls earlier than us, than the rest of the population. I want to say to you, all that they will offer you, take it then. Take it then. But when you get into that booth, when you get into that voting compartment, it is your choice to make your decision there. It is your choice to vote for the party that will put Guyana in a better position. It is your choice to vote for the APNU. They have policies that cater for all public servants, not the maltreatment and onion curry that servicemen and women of this country guys. You tell me if Venezuela really and truly were to invade this place, where the energy coming from with onion curry for them to stand up and hold a weapon? Huh? What nonsense, Ali, is a real disgrace. You know what I'm telling you? You're going to get it right. Come September 1, he is going to get it right because we are voting them out of office. We are voting for APNU all the way. Remember to remind all of your friends, your relatives, and everyone around, whomever you can help, please do that. It's worth the while. All right? It's worth the while. Let us come out. We work in unison and we will vote them out of office. The last thing, many of us are ducking still and we are hiding. Many of us, I know that you're listening to me. You're in your homes and so on. Because you're fighting victimization. Girlfriend or boyfriend, you're already victimized. Even before you even think it, it already happened. You're already victimized. All right? So it is time we stop lying down and roll over and let these people put punches all over us. Because in any way they want punch. But if they fight back, one of these days they're going to get them off a foot and they're going to fall. You understand? So we've got to fight back. And this is the time that we are not taking intimidation. We are going to stand up and be counted. We are going to fight them tooth and nail until the last vote. When the police station closes, come September 2nd. With all confidence, optimism, and enthusiasm, there will be a new president, Honorable Aubrey Compton Norton of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. I say, vote them out. With that, I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Teacher Bonita. Honorable, not them down. They're calling down the line. But I want to ask you something about Ruimveldt. Where is your youth training center? Where is your youth training center? How can the youth go in this community to get skill training? I want to tell you something. When the APNU under the Granger was in office, there were night schools. Our youngsters could have gone to night schools. When the PPP came to office, they shut them down. The only majority is going to ensure that our young people get access to training, skill training, and other training that will empower them. I see that in all police station. It is prepared to compete and then I understand they start blocking it down. So that the road could pass. But at the end of the day, not Ruimveldt. Understand this. The only love the PPP got to you, especially our young people, is to lock you up. That is why they give you a police station instead of a training center. We deserve better. The young people in these communities deserve better. And the APNU government is going to invest in you through the Youth Empowerment Scheme, the YES scheme. And I'm saying to you, brothers and sisters, vote for APNU, vote for the PAM. I know I shouldn't be too long, but I want to say this to you. Our communities like North Ruimveldt remain unsafe communities for its residents. They remain unsafe because the PPP has created a system where we have what was described some years ago as black on black violence. Because what they've done through their friends and cronies and the likes of those who are coming and telling about win is infiltrate our communities and brought a lot of arms and ammunition into our communities. In short, what they do is they test the young people and then they put guns into their hands and they say, go and kill your brother, your sister, your mother, your father, your neighbor, so that you could eat the food. No more must these communities be the hunting grounds for when the rich and wicked in this country are looking for enforcers. These communities, our young people deserve to be empowered through training and education and job opportunities. I am saying that the APNU will ensure that happens. Sisters, let us welcome to the podium a man who needs no introduction really. All I will say to you is put your hands together for Brother Takuma Ogunsi. The man who says the battle will be over as long as the armed forces know in which direction to turn their weapons. Thank you, Brother Chair. Residents of North Ruimveldt, welcome. The Working People's Alliance tonight is in your area to join you with the rest of Guyana and to prepare you for what we,
Lose the cable, lose the cable.
what we the Working People's Alliance have been calling an electoral rebellion. September 1st is a day of reckoning in Guyana. September 1st will decide whether our future is one of freedom, our future is one of domination. September 1st will test the political intelligence and will of the African Guyanese community. September 1st opened the door for us to move Guyana forward as a progressive, modern, multiracial community whose citizens have been a victim of European colonialism. You and I know that what we became in Guyana and the Caribbean was a consequence of King Sugar. It is sugar that shaped our reality. It is sugar that enslaved our ancestors for over 250 years. It is King Sugar that denied Africans money for their labor for 250 years. I have been saying in this campaign, if our ancestors were paid as the indentured workers were paid from the very first time that they arrived in Guyana, Africans in Guyana would have owned the country. But our present economic and social condition is a direct consequence of a denial of centuries of generational wealth at the hands of King Sugar. And we, the Working People's Alliance, have been introducing in this election discussion what the future of Guyana will be structurally, politically, and socially. We are not tied to the argument that politics and democracy is about getting a government in office, and that government in office responsibility is to run the country in a way that all the citizens benefit equally from what the government is doing. We are not political fools. We know if you start from a position of inequality, if you start from a position where the indigenous people, the African people, together own less than 10% of the economy, and you get in the government and you say you're going to run the country in a way that is even hand across the board, ignoring the historical injustices and the historical and structural injustices, then what you are doing is reproducing the problem. So we in the Working People's Alliance take the position that while government and governance has to deliver equally across the board, government has a duty to correct historical injustices among the people, and if the correction of those historic injustices requires special treatment to various sections of the community, it is the duty of the government to do that. And we are saying from Rugby House that the Guyana state is indebted to the African community. We are saying that the Guyana state has a commitment to pay reparations to the African community for the 250 years of denial of generational wealth. We build this country and liberate Guyana from the swamps and the mosquitoes. We made this place habitable for human beings long before any indentured worker arrived in Guyana. And we are saying that oil, King Oil must not do to Guyana and do to the African community what King Sugar did to us. Sugar shaped our reality for hundreds of years. And sisters and brothers, have no doubt, King Oil will shape our reality for the next 100 years. That is what we are facing. What is happening in Guyana is a total reorganizing and transformation of the economy, which will determine our destiny for the next 100 years. And if the African people, if the Amerindian people, if the Guyanese people are not aware that these elections are not simple, normal, democratic elections, these elections are transformative elections. Not the elections of the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. These elections will determine who will be rich and who will be poor. Let me give you a little equation so that you could get a perfect understanding of where I'm going. At present, the Guyana economy is so structured, and this was so before oil, that Africans and Amerindians together probably own 10% of the economy. Indians own about 60%, and the Portuguese about 35%. Now we have the Chinese. Now let us say, and we're going to use the African and the Indian situation. Let us say a government comes to power, and we say, look, we're going to share the oil money equally among the African and the Indian Indian community. For the sake of easy argument, we're going to put the African community at 10%, and we're going to put the Indian community at 50%. That is the current reality. So we come to power as a nice government with good intentions. And we said we're going to share your money equally. And let us say for simple calculation, we say that every month, we go every year, 10% of the oil reserve money revenue will be given to the Indian community and 10% will be given to the African community. Equality. So in the first year, we give the 10% to the African community. We move from 10 to 20. In the same year, we give the same 10% to the Indian community, and they move from 50 to 60. In year 2, we give 10% to the African community, and the African community move from 20 to 30. And we give 10% to the Indian community, and they move from 60 to 70. Sisters and brothers, in that formula and that model, the African community will never be able to catch up with the Indian community. And we in the Rodney House are saying that the fundamental problems in Guyana to ensure the continuity of this country in peace and in harmony requires the realization of all of us that historic injustices must be corrected if the country is to move forward. Who are us to tell the indigenous people of this country who, when the Europeans arrived, they met them on the coast of Guyana, and through the colonial domination, the indigenous people were pushed in the hinterland by the historic process, and the indigenous people in political, economic, and social terms are the worst now in Guyana, and they are more powerless than any other ethnic group in Guyana. And we are saying in Rodney House that that is a historic injustice that has to be corrected if Guyana is to move forward in peace. So we are saying to you, don't fall for the argument that the PPP is trying to force upon us that we should not discuss certain issues because to discuss those issues you are being racial. There is nothing racial in that. The United Nations, that international body, declare a decade for the people of African descent. The United Nations said that the transatlantic slavery have done destruction to Africans throughout the world, and the United Nations instruct all member states to take measures to correct historic injustices in the community experienced by Africans. The decade called for recognition of African people worldwide. It called for development of our people worldwide. And sisters and brothers, our struggle has to be seen in the context of that global decision by the world body. And it is our duty as Africans to give meaning to the United Nations mandate. This government is on record. When they went to the UN and they were asked to account for the stewardship of the country and what they have done to correct the historic injustices to the African community as mandated by the United Nations. They had nothing to say but to try to pour disrespect on the United Nations by telling them the nonsense that the African condition in Guyana has nothing to do with the government, but it's all about our ancestors. At the end of enslavement, we decided to plant provisions and not rice. That is their explanation of the historic process and its effect upon us. In simple terms, the government has stated to the entire world they have no special responsibilities to African people. But if Venezuelans cross the border tomorrow, it is African soldiers and African life that will first fall in the hundreds and the thousands. So the PPP position is that Guyana belongs to them and their flunkies. They must own, dominate everything economically, politically, everything. But when the crunch time comes to defend Guyana, African lives must be used in defense of Guyana. And that is why we are saying that these elections are critical for the nation, but more so critical for the African community. We are engaged in what the PPP is trying to tell us are democratic exercises. They're asking the world to view the fact that we are having the elections in Guyana is a demonstration of the government's commitment to democracy. But the truth of the matter, Guyana have long lost democracy. We are not dealing with democracy. We are dealing with dictatorship. And these elections are being contested in the context of dictatorial domination by the PPP. In democratic elections, sisters and brothers, the election commission that has the responsibility to execute the elections is never in the hands of any of the contesting parties. The election commission is expected to be neutral so that it could deliver a proper impartial elections. In Guyana, we know that the PPP have seized control of Chicom by controlling Claudette Singh. And the PPP control of Chicom has returned the country to a situation where this Chicom is the most partisan election commission since 1992. Nothing democratic about it. In democratic elections, the electoralist is an important instrument in the elections. And it ought to reflect the potential voting population of the country. But what we have in Guyana is a situation where our electoralists almost equal the entire population of the country, opening the door for massive corruption and fraud. These are not democratic elections. In democratic elections, the incumbent government is restricted in their spending at election time, so that the incumbent or the government don't have unreasonable advantage over the contesting parties. But here we are living in a different reality, a reality of domination, where the PPP is using our taxpayers' money in a very partisan way in order to tighten the screws of their domination around us. These are not conditions for free and fair elections. But the get us to participate. And in the context of the geopolitics of the region, the ABC countries and the United States and the UK feel that, look, Guyana elections have a lot of questionable things, but you all must give it a shot and to see what happens. We in Guyana know Guyana, but in the context of geopolitics, we are participating in these elections, and we are saying that if the PPP rig these elections, we in the WPA will not tell Africans to accept rig elections. We will not tell Guyanese people to accept rig elections. We will call to make Guyana into a sea of resistance and rebellion, and they will not be able to govern. When I spoke in Buxton not too long ago, I used the opportunity to draw to the attendees of that meeting what Mr. Norton said at a meeting he spoke over the river, Vegan Hope. Mr. Norton gave a very fiery speech, but coming to the end of the speech, he went out of his way to say that he wants to address the government, and he wants the government to hear. And Mr. Norton said that if the PPP rig these elections, they will not accept rig elections, and that they will behave badly. He said that they have had enough of the PPP nonsense, and it has to stop at these elections come September 1st. So, sisters and brothers, we in the WPA are heartened by the firm and decisive stand taken by Comrade Norton, and we stand in full support that September 4th has to be the day of change in Guyana. Come here, or high waters, and we will not accept a rig election, because we know that given the change in demographics in the country over the years, the PPP is not in a position that they were in the 90s. They have lost a lot of population to migration. Ask yourself why they have not published the last census, which is due to publish many, many years ago. And they're keeping the census information a top secret only to them. But what they forget is that in the public sector, there are a great majority of Africans who work in those sectors. And they forget that a lot of our people has been responsible to put that census together. And then they think that they are being smart. We in the opposition are quite aware of the numbers. And we know the PPP don't have the numbers to win these elections. And that is why they are running crazy. And they're doing all the things they are doing because they know they don't have the numbers. And we are sure in a free and fair elections, we in the APNU coalition will cut their ass and turn them out of power. We have no doubt about that. So, sisters and brothers, our victory is almost certain once the playing field is level. But we have to deal with the political animal in the PPP. The PPP rig the 2020 elections when Granger and we were in power. And if they rig the elections when they were in opposition, we will be stupid not to expect that they will do everything in their power to rig these elections. Therefore, sisters and brothers, elections are not magic. Elections are things that you either win or you lose. Elections are things that the opponent could steal your victory from you. When the PPP did in the last elections with the help of their foreign friends and they kick us out of power. And Comrade Granger made the greatest political sin by not insisting that he would not accept a change of government out of elections that are disputed to the level in which the last election was disputed. And we in the WPA have been working for the North to make sure that the PNC leadership understand the political realities of the last election. And we have been working with them to make sure that in these elections, we will not allow the PPP to prevail the rigging of the elections. And our position in the House is clear. There could only be one just result from these elections, and that just result has to be a victory for the AFP and you. Any other results we know is bogus results, and we will reject them. And we want the rest of the Caribbean and the world to understand that we are contesting elections in a situation that is far from democracy and is far from being free and fair. And in the context of that, we cannot accept controversial elections and allow the PPP to continue to rule the country out of controversial elections. Sisters and brothers, we due to tie this meeting up. By 9 o'clock, I don't see you. You're already past 9. I don't want to keep you very long. So, sisters and brothers, you have heard from our speakers, and you have heard from other speakers when the APMU came to your community about our manifesto commitments to you, about the beautiful things that we intend to do to you. And we in Rugby House come to support that and to use that to inspire you. But we also come to tell you that politics is a rough game. And we come here to tell you we're not dealing with political angels. So the first order things is for us to vote solidly for the APNU. You have to call your family members together and you have to begin to discuss the political realities in the country. You have to summon the young people to discussions of these matters. You see, our young people, unfortunately, are caught in a funny situation. This generation of young people, let us say from 18 to about 22, is a generation of young people that have not participated in any significant political struggle because we, under political opposition, have been off the road for too long. And we have given the PPP a lot of political space to flex their muscles and to intimidate us and to prepare and to appear to be dominant and all powerful. And our young people came to consciousness in those circumstances. So today, we have a set of young people who have never experienced our collective strength as an African community. We have had a set of young people that have not experienced our collective strength as an APMU family. And that is why a lot of them are easy pickings for the Mohammed and the PPP. And we, the political leaders, we have to accept a certain amount of responsibility for the present condition of our young people. And we are saying in Rugby House, we're going to lose some of them in these elections. We are practical political people. But our duty is to win back as much as we could win back to the APNU coalition. Because, sisters and brothers, in electoral terms, numbers are important. In any election, numbers are important. And if by chance the Mohammeds and the so-called Win Party, this is a straight fight between the APMU and the PPP. The Mohammeds cannot win the elections and they cannot get the presidency. That is off the table. The victory in the elections will either come to the APNU or the PPP. No other party. That is the stark reality. But small parties could be spoilers. And let us just pay some attention to him. Win could be a spoiler. If Win get 10% of the African Guyanese vote, it means that Win will be creating the condition for the PPP to win the elections fair and straight. On the other hand, if Win take 10% of the Indian votes, it will create the opportunity for the APMU to win the elections. That is the reality. Win to be the spoiler. And we don't want Win to spoil the elections on our side. It is okay for them to spoil the elections on the PPP side. But the PPP is conscious of that reality, and the PPP is kicking their ass and kicking them out of the Indian community. And when I watch who are behind Mohammed, I don't see Indian youths. I see African youths running behind Mohammed, a man who has had a history of hostility against the African community. He and Roger Khan, Jagdio, Godrich, and the other PPP leaders developed a phantom squad that killed hundreds of our young people. And today, Mohammed having got himself in trouble with the Americans. This problem with Mohammed and the PPP is not an organic internal problem between the two of them. They have for years been close allies. The Mohammed economic empire was built in alliance with the PPP. The last elections, Mohammed boasts that he provides special security vehicle for Ali to parade around the country. But it's the Americans who had called the Mohammed card. And then the Americans imposed sanctions on Mohammed. That is what created the problem Because in simple terms, what the Americans were saying to Jackie or the PPP, you either deliver Muhammad to us, or we want to rock the boat, and we want to make your life difficult. And Jackie turned to Muhammad and said, brother, this is not a problem between me and you, as you know. This is the white people abroad, the Americans, who have created a difficult situation for me. And I have to decide whether I hand you over or I save my government. And Jagdeo told Mohammed that he's going to save his government. And Mohammed is no fool. He understood what that meant. Is that Jagdeo was prepared under US pressure to hand him over. And he decided that he has a fight for his life. A fight for his life. And he was advised by his lawyers that one of the best ways to give yourself a chance is to enter politics and to see if you can get into the parliament. Because if you get into parliament, you create more problems for the government to extradite you to the United States. So Mohammed sojourned into the election contestation has nothing to do with its concern for the poor and powerless, the multiracial poor or the African poor. Mohammed entry into the elections is to save his skin from the United States prison. But he is prepared to use his money to recruit African young people as a physical and political shield for him. And we have saw not too long ago when the police went to Mohammed's house, scores of African youths turn up and use their bodies in defense of Mohammed. Sisters and brothers, I am a political realist. And we in Rodney House is a political realist. We understand and we have no quarrel with a man who got himself in trouble and fighting to save his skin. It is a natural human instinct. Where we have problems with Muhammad is the fact that he are using his money, which in a large way were money stolen from the Guyanese people, to recruit young Africans and to play with their lives. If the situation develops at the Mohammed's house or residence or his store, wherever, an African youth rally to the defense of the Mohammeds, and it happens that the police decide to fire, it's scores of African youths whose bodies will line the streets. It is African blood who will be shed in defense of Mohammed, not Indian blood, not Amerindian blood. And here is where I have a problem with Mohammed. He's taking advantage of our economic and social impoverishment, which he, Mohammed, Jagdio, the PPP and Ali, has been over the years the architect of that impoverishment. Sisters and brothers, I will close in another 2 minutes. I already take you long past the 9 o'clock hour. I want to make this point. The PPP, when it came to power in 2020, was the first government that had a chance to spend all money. And from 2020 to 2025, they have spent 4.5 trillion Guyana dollars, tremendous sums of money. unprecedented in the history of the country from slavery to the present. No government has had its hands on that kind of money. And they spend the money in a way to enrich their friends and their cronies. But the impasse is to have the face to turn to us, opposition supporters and Africans, and ask you what the APNU did for you when they were in power. And they present themselves as some great managers of the economy, working political magic and economic magic. But whatever they have done, it was done simply due to the tremendous oil money that they have at their disposal and they're spending. No magic. And in fact, if you were to apply any strict managerial examination to what they have produced, it has been a disaster. When we were in power from 2015 to 2020, there were no oil money. We had discovered oil, but no money came to the treasury and the government. And in our time, in the 5 years that the APNU was in power, we spent $1.5 trillion. $1.5 trillion. And the social conditions in the country were far superior than what it is today. We had more reliable electricity. We had a more workable cost of living. We had a cleaner city. We had put an end to extrajudicial killings. We are beginning to end the criminalization of the state that was created by the PPP. We have begun to bring back in Guyana political morality and social morality. But they are spending $4.5 trillion. And the social conditions in the country is a mess. And we are saying to you, don't be fooled by that propaganda, because that propaganda is directed to the African community and the opposition support base. We must not listen to them. We must have what people may say, when you deal with stupidness, you got to respond just like them. And we must get crazy as them. We don't want to hear what you're saying. Whatever you're saying is wrong. And we only listening to one thing. Is what the APNU says to us. And we don't care how much you say you have done. We know that our future and our liberation and our destiny lies with bringing the APNU victory come September 1st. And we are appealing to you, sisters and brothers. We need a massive turnout in the African community